Hello everyone, this is CircuitPython weekly meeting for Monday, February 23rd, 2026. It's time of the week where we get together to talk about all things CircuitPython. I'm Liz, I'm sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python designed to run on tiny computers called microcontrollers. CircuitPython development is primarily sponsored by Adafruit, so if you want to support Adafruit and CircuitPython, consider purchasing hardware from adafruit.com. This meeting is held on the Adafruit Discord server. You can join anytime by going to adafruit.it/discord. We hold the meeting in the CircuitPython dev text channel and the CircuitPython voice channel. Meeting typically happens on Mondays at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, except when it coincides with a U.S. holiday. In the notes doc, there's a link to a calendar you can view online or add to your favorite calendar app. We also send notifications about upcoming meetings via Discord. If you would like to receive these notifications, ask us to add you to CircuitPythonista's Discord role. There is a shared notes document that accompanies the meeting and recording. You can contribute to this document beforehand. File notes document includes timestamps to go along with the video, so you can use the doc, skip around, and view the parts of the video that interest you most. This meeting is held in 5 parts. First part is community news. Second part is state of CircuitPython, libraries, and Blinka. Third part is hug reports. Fourth part is status updates. And fifth part is in the weeds. And that covers how the meeting will go. And with that, we'll get started with community news. So this week, MicroPython now requires AI disclosure on every pull request. MicroPython has added a generative AI policy into their contributor guidelines, and PR 18842 adds a matching declaration into the GitHub PR template. Every contributor now picks one. I did not use generative AI tools, or I used them, but a human has checked the code. They didn't go full zig and ban AI outright. Angus Grattan says he hopes they won't have to, and there's a link to the Adafruit blog if you want to read some more. And then CircuitPython 10.1.1 was released. CircuitPython 10.1.1 is the latest minor revision of CircuitPython and is a new stable release. CircuitPython 10.1.0 was withdrawn due to a showstopper performance problem on Espressif. And we've got links to Adafruit blog and release notes on GitHub. And then project of the week, a Raspberry Pi as a studio camera. Martin Braum has made a Raspberry Pi studio camera featuring a Pi 5 and touchscreen with the HD camera module. Interesting part comes in the software using Python, in which he's written a low latency GUI over an HDMI output camera application. It's designed to plug into video mixing hardware, and one of the HDMI outputs carries the GUI while the other carries the unadulterated video. Great with, for example, OBS Studio. And we've got links to GitHub, Hackaday, and YouTube. And these news items and more available in our weekly Python for Microcontrollers newsletter, which goes out via email on Monday mornings. Visit adafruitdaily.com to subscribe to the newsletter. Thanks to Anne for putting the newsletter together. If you have any Python on hardware projects to share or find content you'd like to see included, please consider contributing to the newsletter. Email cpnews@adafruit.com with a link to the content. And that's community news. Next up is state of CircuitPython, libraries, and Blinka. So this is a quantitative overview of the entire project. Gives us a chance to look at the health of the project separate from our status updates. We'll talk about the project overall, and then separately discuss the core, libraries, and Blinka. So overall, there were 14 pull requests merged by 8 authors. Folks I hadn't really seen before were Mimi89999 and Giuliano77. And then there were 3 reviewers, D. Halbert, Bomigai, and Tanut. There are also 9 closed issues by 5 people and 6 issues opened by 6 people. And now we'll hear from Scott about the core.
Hello. So for the core, we had 13 pull requests merged from 7 different authors. So new names to me are Mimi899999, 4 nines, Giuliano77, and then Weblate. Those might have been translations. Bablock B is also infrequent. We had 3 reviewers, so thanks to them. Pull request wise, we have 25 open issues, so we're right on that on the nose of a single page of PRs, which is kind of like my goal is to keep us under that. A lot of these are open for quite a while, so if you're related to any of these, please take a look. I'd love to get this number down, especially because we could probably get some of them over the line pretty easily with LLM agent stuff. Although some are boards and then you need hardware. But that's pull requests. Next is issues. We had 8 closed issues by 4 people, 4 open by 4 people, so we're down 4 for a total of 840 open issues. Dan's been doing a lot of work on that, so thanks to Dan. We track prioritization on milestones using milestones, so this is prioritization for Adafruit funded folks. We have 2 open issues on 10.1x, which is the latest stable release, and that Dan's been doing a great job getting stabilized. We have 0 open issues for 10.2, which is going to be the next one. And then 104 open issues in the broader 10 bucket. So that's where we are. We have 0 issues that are not assigned to milestones, so we've kept up triaging with those. That's where we are for the core.
Great, thank you. And now we'll hear from Tim about the libraries.
Right, thanks, Liz. This section covers all the CircuitPython libraries, which are hosted on GitHub under 2 different bundles. So we have the Adafruit library bundle, which right now has 382 libraries in it. We have the community library bundle with 173 libraries in it, giving us a total right now of a pleasing 555 total libraries across both of those bundles that support various things on CircuitPython. We had a relatively quiet week last week, only just 1 pull request merged by 1 author, thanks to Relic SE, 1 reviewer, thanks to Scott, and that was in the community bundle that was adding a new library to that community bundle. That leaves us right now with 41 pull requests open for the Adafruit bundle libraries. The oldest one of those is a draft at 1,285 days. Newest one is 1 day. Issues-wise, we had 1 issue closed by 1 person, 1 new issue opened up by 1 person, and that leaves us right now with 770 open issues across those Adafruit libraries. There is one of them currently that's labeled a good first issue. You can find that one and all the rest at circuitpython.org/contributing, which is a website where you should head if you are interested in getting involved in CircuitPython. When you first load that page, again, it's circuitpython.org/contributing. You'll see a list of pull requests, a list of links over to GitHub. When you follow those links, they're going to take you to a pull request, which is a proposed change that someone has put in, and these proposed changes are waiting for a person to review them, and that tends to be one of the things that we point folks towards who want to get involved but don't have a specific idea of what they want to work on. So you can take a look over those PRs, you can review the code that's in there for spelling, syntax, logic, everything like that. If you have the hardware for it, that's even better. You can test it out, and when you're ready, you can leave a comment on GitHub letting us know how it went, what you found when you looked over the code, if you think it's all good, or if you think there's anything that should change. If you did have hardware, let us know how it went when you tested on hardware, and also be sure to leave what device you tested on and what version of CircuitPython and all that good stuff. If you get comfortable with that process and would like to get leveled up to join the official review team that we have there on GitHub, we can work with you to do that. If you would like to start contributing some of your own code, you can also do that from the same page, circuitpython.org/contributing. If you click in the navigation over to the Issues tab, you will see a similar looking list of links, but these ones represent issues over on GitHub. They don't have a proposed change yet. They're waiting for a person to come along and actually propose a change to either fix a bug or add a new feature or example or something like that. So for those, you could have a scroll through that list, click through to read about what the issue is, find something that is interesting to you, and then you can submit a PR to try to resolve that issue. We have a Learn Guide for contributing to CircuitPython using Git and GitHub. We also have folks who are happy to help out here on the Discord. So if you are having trouble either reviewing or contributing and you want some help, just come say hi on Discord. Let us know what you're up to. There will be folks here who are happy to help you out. And then I will leave you with library updates in the last 7 days. Over in the community bundle, we had a new library, CircuitPython Synth IOTA. So if you are a fan of synths and all things musical, you can check that one out. And then Funk Tools over there was updated as well. And that's what we have for libraries this week. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Now I'll read about Blinka. Blinka is our compatibility layer for CircuitPython on single board computers like Raspberry Pi. And this week there were 0 pull requests merged. There are currently 19 open pull requests. 0 issues were closed, but 1 was opened by 1 person. There are currently 146 total open issues, and there are 166 supported boards. And that's going to do it for State of CircuitPython Libraries in Blinka. Next up is Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance to highlight folks in the CircuitPython community and beyond for doing awesome things. I'll start and we'll go down the list of Hug Reports alphabetically. If you're text only or missing the meeting, I will read your notes when I get to them in the list. So I'll kick things off. Hug Report to Dan and Foamy Guy for helping me get the State of the CircuitPython report. There was a little issue getting the stats this morning, but they were able to rerun it. And then a group hug. And now I'll read for Carter. Hug report to Dan for MagTag fix and finding an auto magic way, and also to Bob G and Foamy Guy for helping troubleshoot test on Discord. And I'd like to second that too. Thanks, Dan, for figuring that out. And now we will also hear from Dan.
Okay, thanks. My hug reports. Thanks to Scott for technical discussions I've had with him. Live technical discussions, thank you. And thanks to Timeline 8 GR Grant, that's the same as Bob G, Nintendo 424, and Jay Mangum, who've been submitting very useful issues to help us get the bugs out of 10.1. That's it.
Awesome, thank you. Now we'll hear from Foamy Guy.
Of Hug this week, thanks to Scott for a pointer to info on LV font supporting anti-aliasing. I was able to play with that a bit this weekend, and it was some cool stuff. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Nice. Now I'll read for Retired Wizard. Hug report to Foamy Guy for starting me down the open claw rabbit hole, and a group hug. And then we'll round things out with Tanute.
Hello, just a hug to Dan for getting a bunch of fixes out to people really quickly.
Great, thank you. And that will do it for Hug Reports. Next up is Status Updates. So Status Updates is our time to tell folks what we're up to individually. I will start and we'll go through the list of updates alphabetically. When I call on you, take a couple minutes, talk what we've been working on since the last meeting and what you'll be doing until the next meeting. If the discussion becomes too long for status updates, we can move it to In the Weeds. So I was actually out for a portion of last week because I was sick, unfortunately, but I did publish the guide for the new SGP41 sensor breakout. And then I also started dabbling with Homebridge, and I wrote a plugin that brings Adafruit I/O feeds into Apple HomeKit. For testing, I have an ESP32 S3 Cutie running CircuitPython with an AHT20 temperature and humidity sensor. And so then the sensor is running CircuitPython code that sends the temperature and humidity to separate feeds in I/O. And then in Homebridge, the feeds are brought in as HomeKit sensors with the plugin that I wrote. And the plugin updates the reading of the sensor every 5 minutes by getting the info from the feed, and this data shows up in HomeKit. So I might write it up as a guide, or it might just be something I share individually, but I was really excited that I was able to get that working. And now we'll hear from Dan.
Okay, so I've been working on bug fixes for 10.1, as you heard. So I made 2 fixes that were already merged and released in CircuitPython 10.1.3. 10.1.1 was released in the middle of the last week, and then 10.1.2 was thrown away because it was built wrong. And then so now there's 10.1.3, and that has 2 useful fixes. One is this e-ink, auto detect e-ink display that we were talking about. So there are 3 inks that were used on MagTag. One is the original one, which uses a particular controller chip. Then that was replaced with a display with a different controller chip in 2025, but it turns out there are 2 versions of that one which require different settings. And it turns out we can distinguish them, we hope, in general, by there's a certain ID, user ID register. So I changed some code that was already reading a register to read the first byte of this user ID register, and it's different. So that now we can distinguish all 3 versions of MagTag this way. And then there was another problem with I2C DINIT on Espressif that was pretty uncommon, but it caused the Qualia driver to crash. So you couldn't use Qualia with 10.1 point something. So that's fixed in 10.1.3. And then there's another fix that was just merged. Thank you, Scott. which was that certain vintages of Espressif TFT feathers were not showing the display after the second boot. And it turned out that was because the pin reset logic was not correct because of a PR that I had submitted like a bunch of weeks ago, actually. And it mostly didn't matter, but in this case, it did matter. So I fixed that and I made the pin reset actually happen. It wasn't happening. And right now I'm debugging a weird safe mode crash on Espressif, but just on the QT board, particular QT board, when using a display and SD card simultaneously, which is also something that I thought was fixed, but there is still obviously some bug that remains. So I'm working on that. So there'll be a 10.1.4 in the not too distant future, probably. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Foamy Guy.
All right. I have been working on the Android Bluefruit Connect app and the last couple of weeks, getting that updated for the latest versions of Android, and then working on a new listing in the Play Store. And that went in late last week and was approved by Google at some point in the interim. So that is live now. I left a link here in the notes doc if anyone wants to get that. And eventually we will depublish the old one, and this will be the one we use moving forward. It's been updated to work on the latest phones and everything now. After that, I started working on this Moonshine voice control setup for the Raspberry Pi. This is like a local model that you can run that does voice transcription, and I'm working on a relatively basic example for the Pi that takes control of some NeoPixel LEDs, so you can set the color on those with voice commands. The guide for that is about half done right now, so I'm hoping to finish that up this week. And then over the weekend, I started working on adding support in Bitmap font library for anti-aliased fonts, or specifically with the newer LVGL fonts that Scott added support for most recently. The LVGL font converter has support for more than 1 bit. In the past, we've always just been using 1-bit LV fonts, but on the actual converter site, and I think there's a CLI tool or something somewhere, you can choose higher values. So I was able to convert some fonts using higher bit value, and then I was working on the code to actually import them and get them plotted into a bitmap correctly. I had some success, but I did find a few things that need fixed in the bitmap label in order for it to work more generally. So I'll work on cleaning that up and getting those submitted this week, and then I will look into the core LV Font.io module next, so we can have the same thing from the core version. And that's what I'm up to. Thanks.
Very cool. And now I'll read for Retired Wizard. At the expense of all else, I found myself deep in the OpenClaw rabbit hole and having a blast. Perfect way to spend the blizzard as long as I don't lose power. Fingers crossed. I'm also in the midst of the blizzard, so feel that. And now we'll have Scott play us out.
All right, so I got a lot of balls in the air. The first one that I'm trying to finish is the Zephyr BLE.io scanning and advertising. It's super close. I just had one single test fail due to a timeout that was too short. It was like checking for output and it missed 2 characters and it failed. And so I'm tweaking the way that the tests run. This is like the foundation that I'm going to do a lot of work on, so I want to get it right. I'm adding the ability to just have a flag that says like run code.py twice and then exit and make sure that like you get it all. So I'm adding that right now, and then that I should be able to get one final pass on the BLE, and hopefully it'll be good. GPIO input, so digital in out, and rotary IO is ready to go, except it's built on the test changes from the BLE thing. So I'll just have to update that quickly after the BLE stuff is finalized and merged in. Host network is the same, so that'll allow us to test sockets and web workflow, which is great. So that's close. I have a PR for the IDF update from 5.5.1 to 5.5.3. That was pretty simple. Just the LLM agent did the update. It just broke like 4 boards. One of the fixes was done correctly. The other one was not quite done. So there's this like C3 AI Thinker C3 board with 2 megabytes flash. It's just like a troublemaker, and I'm turning can off, and it's got plenty of space after that. So working on getting that out too. That's kind of part of me trying to do smaller stuff. The IDF update doesn't change any files. It just changes the submodule, and of course those 2 build fixes. Analog I/O I started, but I haven't tested. Again, that's going to be blocked on the BLE test changes. I was looking at USB IP again. So this is a way to send USB packets over TCP IP. It's a standard Linux kernel thing, but I don't actually want to use the Linux kernel for it. I just want to use it as the protocol. So I had the LLM write a USB to IP bridge based on using the ESP IDF, and it runs on the S3 and isn't able to like at least tell me what device is plugged into the S3, which is kind of amazing. And my intent is to have that work on the P4 as well. I had this idea that Power over Ethernet P4 USB to IP bridge would be super handy and super cool. It'd be a way for you to basically put any USB powered microcontroller anywhere you want, and then still have USB access, all with a single Ethernet cable. So the cable carries USB via IP, and it also would carry power, which would be cool. And so that's a thread I'm pulling. The other thing that got me into USB IP was that the native simulator does USB via USB IP. So to be able to set up a native simulator test for USB, we could use USB IP. So we need a way to do USB via USB IP that doesn't involve the Linux kernel, because I don't want to make the host OS unstable. So I've started a PyUSB backend based on USB IP. So we kind of build all of our USB class level stuff like HID and mass storage on top of PyUSB. So this is just another way that we'll actually be able to test our host libraries as well by using them in our test environment. So that's a big thing, but could be really cool for us testing all USB related stuff. I should say that the P4 or the IDF USB to IP bridge is interesting from the standpoint of being able to isolate our hardware in the loop harnesses. So if we actually have like devices that we're testing, by putting them over IP, we don't have to worry about crashing the Linux kernel, which has been a problem in the past with doing aggressive testing. So that's interesting too. So lastly, I am also trying to upstream a few small changes into Zephyr. One is we actually do I2C testing in the native sim, and we do that via an emulated EEPROM, but it didn't actually respond to scanning correctly, so I've submitted a PR for that. And then I also found an issue with the way that they provide stack information in the native sim. So I just opened that PR just now. So I'm starting to dabble in actually working with the Zephyr folks for things that I'm changing. That's all of it, I think.
Great, thank you. All right, there's no in the weeds topics, so I think we can go ahead and go into the wrap up. So this has been CircuitPython Weekly for Monday, February 23rd, 2026. Thank you to everyone who participated. If you want to support Adafruit and CircuitPython, and those of us that work on CircuitPython, consider purchasing from the Adafruit shop at adafruit.com. Also want to mention there is a LED sale going on as part of our month of sales. So this week, LED stuff's on sale. A video of this meeting will be released on YouTube at youtube.com/Adafruit, and the podcast will be available on major podcast services. It'll also be featured in the Python for Microcontrollers newsletter. Visit adafruitdaily.com to subscribe. Next meeting will be held next Monday, as usual, at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. This meeting is held on the Adafruit Discord server, which you can join by going to adafruit.it/discord. To be notified about the meeting and any changes to the time or day, you can ask to be added to the CircuitPythonistas role on Discord. We hope to see you all next week. Thanks, everyone.